Back to 2/3 of the Concussion Protocol Podcast. Hi, Mom. I'm your host, Chase, with our other host, Chance. And as you can see, we are missing a third host again. He really is in the transfer portal now. I think he's looking at options. He's seen what his agents can get him and what schools will provide the best opportunities for him. So we tip our caps to him. We wish him the best and hope that he finds what he needs.
Sometimes the grass isn't greener on the other side.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's not. But for a lot of the Heisman candidates this year, it was. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
But in all reality, he will probably be back next week. But we'll see. We'll see how the transfer portal.
It's Christmas time. It gets busy.
Yeah,
There's a lot going on in his life and our lives, but we're striving to give you content still.
Here we are. Wow. Bull season, guys. It's been an interesting ride, hasn't it? At some of the games, at least.
Bowl season is so hard, Chase. I don't know what to expect outside of the playoffs. And even the playoffs, I don't even know what to expect. But it's just, some teams are just fielding it. Some teams, it's like, hey, is their third string good? I don't know.
Yeah.
And then we find out, hey, Old Dominion has a good team. And USF has nothing without their starting QB and a couple starters, So it's so hard to predict some of these things. Say what you want about the program, and I get it. But one cool thing last year was when Colorado put that insurance on their players and they actually played in the bowl game. They got smacked, but they played. That was kind of cool. Nowadays, it's just, and I get when players don't want to play because X, Y, Z. I get it, but it sucks. It sucks for the sport. I wish the transfer portal was in a different time. Logistics make it difficult, but, there's still some fun games to be played, even if half the players are only playing.
Yeah. They absolutely need to address something with the transfer portal at least. Like, you're not going to stop opt-outs. It's just going to be a thing from now on. Obviously, people have future careers in the NFL. They don't want to get injured, or they don't want to get injured before they transfer to their new team. So I get it to a degree, but it really hurts the sport. We need at least some more bowl games that we know there's not going to be so many opt-outs for, because unfortunately, even with some of the playoff games, you're getting coaches opting out because of how the schedule is set up. So,
well, it's getting worse than that. It's teams are just opting out. It's like, Iowa State, we're not going to play. Notre Dame, most famously, we're not going to play. I'm sure we've already talked a lot about them, but yeah. But I mean, there's flat out. I mean, the Big 12 especially, a lot of their teams are not playing, and I get it. Like, they don't have a coach, they don't have half their players, like they can't even field the team. But it sucks. It really does.
Yeah, but I think some of it comes too because back in the day, even if you weren't like that hyped for an amazing game against New Mexico in the Alamo, like in a small bowl like the Sun Bowl or something like that, you got to at least like travel to another state, get there a couple days early, because in bowl games you are allowed to get there earlier than in regular games, and actually like enjoy yourself as a college athlete. Now, a lot of them are getting paid, so they can do that on their own to places they actually want to go, and it's not as much of an experience for them. So I can see why it's not as
what if there was like a revenue sharing program or something on the bowl games where it's like, okay, we're going to give 80% of the revenue to the school, but 20% goes to the players that actually play.
Mm-hmm.
Would that incentivize some to stay put, and play the game, even if they've got plans to transfer or go to the draft or whatever?
It could. I hate to go down the money hole, but it's unfortunately what we've been doing because we don't have any regulation at all.
The alternative is nobody's going to watch these games, right? Yeah. The bowl games are meaningless, and then there's no money. So might as well throw some at the players. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. Maybe there's that. Get insurance on the players that are going to the draft so that if they get injured, they could get the money they pay out or whatever, I guess.
I will say maybe the answer is just schedule all the bowl games. Schedule
Earlier.
rivals against each
Oh,
other. Because if you look ahead, we have a rivalry bowl game coming up. Georgia Southern at App State, deeper than hate rivalry. And there are 0 opt-outs on
yeah.
both sides
I
because they want to
remember.
play that game. So
Yeah. I remember one year BYU and Utah played in the Las Vegas Bowl. And
oh,
yeah, yeah. I mean,
that's
I've seen
crazy.
it. Yeah, yeah. So that could be something. It sucks to keep putting. It sucks when they're in the same conference, but it
Mm-hmm.
can happen. But I mean, like, let's say West Virginia and Pitt. I mean, that's not a conference game, Georgia Tech, Georgia, even though they play during the regular season a lot
Mm-hmm.
of times. I mean, there's options still. I don't know. Something's got to be better than what's going on.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but I mean, there's still some good games. I watched the Louisville game today. That was an okay game. Came down a little bit to the wire. So
I actually missed that one, but was that the morning one?
yeah, it was more in the morning, afternoon.
I was just right before this. I was watching the which game? UNLV versus Ohio. Which
Hmm.
I swear they just wait for me
Wait.
to watch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, UNLV versus Ohio. I was like, I swear they're just waiting for me to watch to negate a perfectly good touchdown with an ineligible receiver downfield penalty. Just they waited. The second I turned it on, UNLV's driving. I was like, okay, that's a good drive. And the dude just scrambles, gets out of it, just throws it, and the guy that thought he was scrambling on the run goes to block for him. Once again, has not affected the play whatsoever. Touchdown, calls it back. Ineligible. Oh man, that rule
That
really needs revision,
that
dude.
penalty drives you nuts.
Dude, it just needs a revision. Like, so in the comments are a lot of people that got a lot of comments on that one. A lot of people calling me stupid because obviously I don't know what I'm talking about. Which who does, to be honest. But anyway, I was being more dramatic, saying, "Oh, it needs to be removed completely. We just get rid of it." Well, it does need to exist. I agree with the people that brought up good points. Is like if you have the entire O line running into zones, who do you know to cover? Who's gonna someone's gonna be open now. I get that, but if you have one player, one singular lineman doing absolutely nothing for the play, just why is it being called? It's pointless. Come on. If the guy trucks a guy and that stops a coverage, offensive PI or call the play, but it needs to be revised somewhat. Like,
Yeah.
come on, this
I
isn't the
think.
NFL. Let's leave it more fun. Come on, it's ridiculous that
Yeah.
we're negating touchdowns for this.
Well, I remember it was the Patriots and the Ravens, and I think it was the Patriots' undefeated season, and the Ravens had them on the ropes, and it was a fourth down. If they stopped the Patriots, they were going to win, and the Patriots got up to the line, and like right before the ball snapped, there was a receiver that called himself eligible, or a tight end. It was a tight end that called himself eligible right before this ball snapped. And of course, it was man coverage. Nobody had picked him up because he wasn't eligible until like the very last second. It was a loophole in the rule book. They go on and get the first down. They win the game. Belichick special. He always pulled that kind of crap.
Was that before
And
the
they
tuck
had to
rule?
revive. Yeah, right. They had. Sorry, I got to plug in my tablet. They had to revise the rule for it. So I mean, I get it for instances like that. I get it. Especially if you're paying man coverage, you got to know who to cover, who to not to cover. But man, it feels like there's so many cool plays that could be called, or so many offensive schemes that are just negated because it's like, okay, he's clearly trying to be a blocker on this play. He's not trying to be a receiver, but he got just a little too deep, and you want to reverse it because he's on the other side of the field. That's where it's like, man, there's two sides of it. So I don't know. Like you said, there's got to be some sort of revision. It can't be taken out because of the cheating Patriots, right? Some crap like that. But like, there's such cool plays that can happen that just get negated all the time.
Absolutely.
And I mean,
Sometimes
it could.
the Sometimes the offensive, the lineman literally turns around and is no longer even engaging, but he's already downfield, so the play's dead. Like it's
Yeah.
stupid. So,
I mean, the
but
argument could be made that, hey, you know the rule, you have to stick behind the line and just be conscious of the line, right? If you're a quarterback, you can't throw past the line of scrimmage, and people, they do that, right? So I get that side of it, but I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's a tricky one. I'd like to see something revised, though.
yeah, he can't see behind him. He saw the guy running. He's gonna go block for him, and then the guy has an open, so he throws it, but he's already downfield. So there's nothing the offensive lineman can do at that point. He knew the rule, but at that point, he thought he was blocking. Unfortunately, so in some
Yeah.
cases, at least. But anyway, back to the task at hand. All right, let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's talk about the first playoff game of the year. Oklahoma versus the Alabama Crimson Tide. Oklahoma at home. They had beaten Alabama the last 2 times, or I think even 3 times they've played each other. I believe the only win Alabama has had over them before this was in the playoff, the 2017 playoffs in the first round. Other than that, Oklahoma has owned them in every game that was not a playoff game. Unfortunately for Oklahoma, that trend continued as they just they couldn't get it done in a playoff game. They Choklahoma'd, return of Choklahoma, and now they are 0-5 all time in the playoffs. Good job, Oklahoma. Little Kirby Smart claps
Kirby
for you.
Smart.
Thanks for dragging this story along for us. We really need to see them still in the playoffs. How did this happen, Chance? They started 17-0, and I was literally like, wow, we might see a Clemson Alabama type game here, like this is going to be over. And then you have some, we have some drives with some questionable calls. I'll get into that later. There's some questionable calls, as there is in every Bama game. It happens, but you have to beat that. If you're playing against them, you have to prep for that, and you have to beat them. And John Mateer was doing that for a while, and then he did what John Mateer's been doing all season, which is throw a pick six, which was partly the wide receiver's fault. I don't know what route he was running, but there was a miscommunication. He ran way past it. The zone DB dropped down, and he threw it straight to him, just wide open pick six. So obviously, when that happens, it was literally 17-0. Now it's 17-17 at halftime. So what are we doing? But what happened, Chance? Other than that, what happened in this game?
I picked Alabama, and the reason being is the last time that they played, Oklahoma had no business winning that game. If you look at the stats, you look at the game and everything, like Alabama was in control, like tripled their yardage, and somehow lost the game. It was nuts. You look at this game, opposite. Oklahoma had this game. I didn't expect it from them. I expected John Mateer to do some John Mateer things. I really am interested, just side note, on what his future holds, because, like, is he good? Is he not? I don't know still. It's still questionable. But anyway, for this season, I expected him to do some things in Alabama to pull out, like, a close win, maybe some Oklahoma's, turnovers or whatever to keep it close. But they really were the dominant team, Oklahoma. It's very confusing on how Alabama won that game. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, Chase. I don't know how Alabama won that game. Didn't expect it from Oklahoma. Kudos to them for putting up a fight, but at the same time, this is the playoffs. This isn't a regular season game. You can't go 0-5 in the playoffs. You can't blow that kind of lead. That's going to come. There's going to be consequences that come.
You can't be a blue blood and be 0-5 in the playoffs. Like you were not like, you're succeeding in making it to the playoffs, and you're having good seasons, yes, but just a couple more losses in your season, and you're Nebraska. Like you used to be good, you used to be dominant, a dominant program, and now you can't win a playoff game ever. You're always like that, one of those last fringe teams getting in, and then you get destroyed. So
yeah, the problem with Oklahoma is they're more like an Oregon, right? you have LSU, who's like they'll have a bad season like this year, and then they'll just win in the national championship, right? Like we know LSU is capable of winning titles. We don't really know that of Oklahoma. Yes, they won one. When was it? Like 2006 or
2000.
something? Oh,
2000 was the
2000.
last one.
Okay, 2000. They won that 2001, right? But since then, it's like, yes, they can make the playoffs. Yes, they can put up good teams. Yes, they're consistent. So is Oregon. They're just not title contenders. And I don't know what puts them over that hill or if they'll ever get there, but that's not what they are, you know? And Alabama can have a mediocre season, or so it seems, and still win the title, unfortunately. That's the caliber that they have. I don't think that's going to happen, but I mean, it was more likely that they were than Oklahoma. So they got to figure something out, especially that offensive side. They got to get a running back. They've got to figure out John Mateer because they had pieces, but they don't have the whole package.
Yeah, one thing in regards to the Alabama thing is, well, yeah, they can have, they can underperform and get away with it because they'll get safety nets and get into the playoffs with 3 losses, or get in the playoffs when there's an undefeated team in front of them with a ACC championship, or get in when they've already lost to the other team that's in there. But why not put a second SEC team in? They always get the nod. I'm hoping to see in the future that some people in these that are making these decisions get voted out, and slowly that bias goes away completely, because that needs to not be a thing. Because a lot of people, and there's bias everywhere. So I'm not going to say that it's completely unrealistic, but there's a lot of people that scream SEC bias, and certainly there is some, but mostly it's just big brand bias. Like, if you watch these games, you're not seeing LSU bias. You're seeing Alabama bias every week. You're seeing Texas bias every week. Maybe Georgia every once in a while. You're seeing Ohio State every week. You're seeing Notre Dame every week. You're even probably not Miami, but you know what I mean. It's the big brands, Oregon, that are really gonna be dominating people's mindsets and making them get extra chances that they don't deserve. But I digress. But for Oklahoma, big problem with them is their offensive line. I don't know. So in the first game, in the matchup they had earlier this year, their offensive line protected John Mateer. They protected him really well. They could not get to him unless they blitzed at all. Like, Alabama needed to blitz to get to Mateer. This game, they were constantly getting to Mateer with a 4-man rush. So I don't know what was going on with them there. They couldn't protect him. It was honestly almost, it didn't seem real that Bama just decided they had a pass rush all of a sudden against this team that dominated them in the trenches the last time they played. But at the end of the day, you gotta beat this team in front of you. You had all the advantages. You had basically a chip on you. You're living in their head. You're at home. Your team's probably the healthiest it's been in a long time. You had a whole week's rest. You should have had this game. This was the easiest opportunity for you to take this game, and you
Bama
didn't.
just got destroyed by Georgia, right? So their confidence is down.
And they almost choked to Auburn. They were the only good game they'd had in the last 6 weeks was against Eastern Illinois, and obviously that one was going to be a blowout. So
yeah, they were limping.
They were crawling into the playoffs. So that was the time to crunch those little cockroaches and send them on their way. But
when there were it's like the walking on the sand, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you know that story when the man thought that he was going through so much, Alabama was going through much, walking through the sand, and he was like, God, where were you? And he's like, the one set of footprints was me. I was carrying you. It's like CFP playoff committee with Alabama. They're carrying him through.
Exactly. But like I said before, there was a couple questionable calls. Just 2 I have off the top. Questionable in referee interference. One, it was a 3rd and 15, and Ty Simpson was scrambling, and he throws a dart. I always forget the receiver's name. Not Williams, but the other guy.
Oh, shoot.
He throws it straight to this guy. He's their leading receiver this year. He's fantastic for the most part. He drops to his knees, puts his hands right here, right through his hands, just completely miss it. Like he had, I don't know how I get it. It was uncomfortable. He's down on his knees. He can't like move for it, but it looked really bad watching it. Absolutely just missed it. There's probably three offensive linemen I saw had defensive linemen hooked, holding them for dear life so they didn't get the tie. And they call defensive holding, automatic first down. I'm like, dude, that is atrocious.
You didn't see though, Chase? They were holding the offensive lineman's hands up here to them. Yeah. And that's what the holding was. They were holding
that drive, unsurprisingly, ended in a touchdown. I believe that one made it 7-17. And then the next one, there's another literally, even the announcers called this out. It was hilarious because I was sitting there yelling at the TV. I was like, that was the worst false start I've ever seen. It is literally right from the get-go, a false start. The left tackle, or was it the right? The right tackle just completely jumps like a second before the ball snapped. They don't call it. It ends up being a 35-yard like catch that's near a touchdown. I believe they settle for a field goal on this drive. But literally like 10 seconds after I've been yelling at the screen, I was like, you got to be kidding me. There's no way. That was the worst false start I've ever seen. And then the announcers go, I'm waiting for the flag. Where's that false start penalty? And I'm like, exactly. What is this? Like, even the announcers are going to point it out? It's crazy.
The guy's preparing to be on the Eagles.
Yeah.
The Eagles are comprised of basically Georgia and Alabama. That's it. And yeah. I swear, and I'm an Eagles fan, by the way. But if you watch, every single time those offensive linemen jump like half a second early to get in their stances, it's crazy that they never get those calls. But yeah, I guess they're just prepping for being an Eagle.
Dude, it's crazy because in some games you'll see like a guy, his nose will wiggle. I'll start. But
yeah,
then they're jumping a full foot back and he's not getting the call because he's wearing crimson. So the right color of crimson, not the scarlet version, it's got to be actual crimson. So, but yeah, I got to give my kudos. Alabama's defense stepped up when they needed them to. They absolutely took control of this game. And some of us think they're a top 10 defense in the league. Some of us don't, but they definitely they played like one right there. So they got it done. They were the first team. Unfortunately, we got to hear about this. They were the first college football team to win a away game in the college football playoffs. Congratulations. Enjoy getting thumped next week. Well, in a week and a half, I guess. So since it's on like a Wednesday or whatever. But you got Indiana, number 1 team in the country, the only undefeated team left. Good luck. You guys seem to have a very inflated ego about how that game's going to go, but I don't like seeing the Big Ten succeed, but I hate seeing Alabama succeed. So guess who I'm voting for?
If Indiana loses that game, man, it's over. It's toast. They've got to win that game. I mean, I like the chances. I really like this Indiana team, but if somehow Alabama pulls it out, Indiana's the team you root for. I mean, that small school that picks up a bunch of nobodies, has the coach that pulls them through, number 1 in the country, took down Ohio State. You can't help but root for them. So if they lose next week, man, that's going to suck.
The only thing I can see, and this was an issue last year, is they've been off for so long. So how are they going to be hot? Alabama just won a road game in the playoffs. It was their best game of the last 7 weeks. Like, they could be hot right now. There is a little, there's like a 10-day gap for them, so maybe they cool off. But there's been like a 24-day gap or whatever for Indiana. So we'll see what happens.
Is real.
So we'll see. Okay, one of the other SEC matchups. Well, one of them's SEC. What
was this game?
Did we expect this? Like, I know you weren't here last week, Chance, but I to quote myself, I said that this is the weirdest game to pick just because there's the most like variability in this game. Like, I could totally have seen A&M and Miami having a shootout, 35-38 or something. But I could have also seen this, apparently, which was a 3-0 at halftime like game. I didn't see the wind being a factor and like 5 missed field goal attempts from each team, like from both teams total. But wow, that was a pretty unfun game to watch, to be honest. Like I like defensive like fronts, but when I'm seeing the kickers just miss these kicks, and I get it, it was windy. It was really windy. You could see the flags whipping, but it just got to be a little bit pathetic for this being a playoff game. As a first playoff game at Kyle Field, and they couldn't even score. And I think the only thing in this game that was the safe bet chance, and I think you know where I'm going with this, is that the game was going to end in an interception from one of these quarterbacks, and it did. It just happened to be Marcel Reed. Like I could have seen Carson Beck doing the same thing, but luckily for him, they were up, and the Aggies were not. So,
well,
what did you see?
So the other thing I did not see, Miami's running game taking over the game and winning it for them.
He was averaging 10 yards a carry.
Yeah, where did that come from? I don't know. Like on A&M side, they rely so heavily on getting sacks and putting teams in bad positions that I liked Miami's chances because of their offensive line. And I guess that just, I mean, it didn't really do anything. It helped them not score, but it didn't help put Texas A&M in good field positions, I guess. I don't know. That was a weird game, man. A lot of weird games this week.
Yeah.
Kudos to Miami. They found a way to win. That's what you do when you get to the playoffs. You got to find ways to win. They found the way. Texas A&M, battered Aggie syndrome, couldn't figure it out.
That's a question I have. Where are we at with Texas A&M? Because I mean, before this, when they were 11-0, like you couldn't doubt it. Like they did what they had to. They beat who was in front of them. They were ranked 3 in the nation. You couldn't really argue with it. I mean, you had your skepticisms, just like we had with other undefeated teams this year, but you couldn't really say anything until they lost. Now they lost the last 2 games of the year, arguably their biggest games of the year, to the highest ranked opponent they had, which was Texas. And it was embarrassing. It wasn't really close. It was an embarrassing loss to your rival. And then they spoil your undefeated season. They spoil you getting to the SEC championship. And now you lose the first round game at Kyle Field against a Miami team that wasn't even in their championship game. Wasn't even in their conference championship game. Like, where are you at if you're an Aggies fan? Are you panicking now? You just signed Elko to this huge contract extension, but they didn't beat a single ranked team this year. Like some of the teams were ranked, but they're not anymore. So what do we expect from this team? Is this team going to bounce back, or are they going to go back to their 8-5 ways?
That schedule that they had doesn't line up like that. It's once every full moon it lines up like that. It's kind of like, again, I'm going to go back to the NFL. The Patriots this year, I think they're 10-2, and the Giants are 2-10. Complete opposite spectrums, right? The Giants have 2 wins versus teams over 500. The Patriots have 2 wins versus teams over 500. Sometimes it lines up for you, and it did this year. That's not going to happen. And I mean, they put it's. You can't say like, oh, well, they're going to get momentum and they're going to get the recruiting class and they're going to get this and this. It's like, no, they've already had that. They've had that for years and years and years now. But I don't know what the solution is. No, I don't trust this team moving forward. In short, I think this was their shot and they missed. They missed bad. And I mean, I'll tell you what, Texas isn't going to lay an egg next year. I mean, maybe we hope they do, but I don't think they are. Georgia's not. Alabama's always going to be Alabama. LSU certainly is going to be better. So this was your shot. Hate to say it.
Unfortunately, for the many people that have similar sentiments to Texas, they're probably going to the playoffs next year. Obviously there's a lot of time between then and now. Things could happen, injuries could happen, whatever. Like there's plenty of things that could happen between there and now. But right now, they will probably be a scary team next year. So, but we'll see. They were ranked number 1 this year, and they were supposed to do something there. So, but A&M's schedule next year we'll see how the teams line up and if these teams look. But the eye test of it, and I don't like using eye test, but they play Arizona State in week 2. That's at home. So we'll see if Kenny Dillingham can get that done there or if Elko embarrasses him. But that's Kyle Field. It's not looking as scary right now because Miami just did it, but Arizona State has a chance there. And if they do, that's going to be embarrassing for A&M. If they get beat, ASU is a reputable Big 12 school, obviously. They just won it last year. They were in the playoffs. But if you lose after this season, and then basically let's just guarantee you win against Missouri State in your opener, and then you lose your first Power 5 conference game, so you'll be 0-3 in the last Power 5 conference games, Power 4 conference games, whatever we're going to call it next year with the Pac-12. That's not going to be a good look, especially because those are like all the games right after you signed Elko to that extension. And that's going to remind you exactly what happened with Jimbo Fisher. So a little bit variation in record, but you know what I mean. So, but that's not a good look. They have to play Arizona State, LSU at LSU again. The whole
How did that happen?
assigning 3 so since the SEC schools are going to 9 conference games, right? For some reason, because they assigned the 3 SEC games that you're going to have every year, and then like the other ones that rotate, right? For some reason, so many of the games that were on the road last year are on the road again. So they're playing at LSU again, just like LSU next year. They're playing against Ole Miss on the road again, even though both of those happened this year. So I don't know why
that is going to be a game.
Yeah, this year they went in and they embarrassed us, but we were coming apart at the seams.
Well,
before that,
I'm just saying, given the circumstances of what has transpired with coaching.
Oh, are you talking about Ole Miss?
Hmm.
I was talking about A&M. I went back to it, but obviously, that's what I thought they did that. To be honest, I thought that was some little behind the scenes type things. But they play at LSU, they play at Missouri. We'll see how they do because Bo Prabula is transferring. I think they're keeping the wait. Is it? I don't know. Is the running back a senior? Because if they lose him, that
Ahmed Hardy. It's Ahmed Hardy, right?
Yeah, because that dude's a G. So he's playing the bowl game. So I don't know if he's staying or if he's in the draft. I forget. I never remember what years they are.
It wouldn't surprise me if he's in the draft.
Mm-hmm. But Bo's leaving, so that hurts them because while he's not the best quarterback, he was definitely very good, very suitable for them.
It says despite being a top prospect, he's confirmed he's staying at Mizzou for 2026.
Well, then there's that, and if they can keep their O-line good, then they had one of the best rushing attacks this year. So
yeah,
they got to play at Mizzou, at Alabama. It's already harder than last year, just with that. Like, even if Alabama turns into the Alabama of last year, that's not where you want to be as A&M, unless you have Johnny Manziel. So, at South Carolina, don't think they're going to be very good next year. But who knows?
Well, I mean, they get back what's his bucket? South Carolina. Yeah,
Lenore did do everything. Obviously, we saw this year. They didn't have a run game. Their defense wasn't playing the best they.
But it can't get any worse, right?
Worse than 3 or 4 wins, yeah. But are they going to be that scary? Unless you're Alabama going on the road there, I guess. I don't know. South Carolina's a funny team. They really get destroyed, and then a couple games they'll just absolutely surprise you, I guess. But then they play Tennessee to end the year, all in a row. No buys. Tennessee, Oklahoma on the road, and then Texas at home.
Yeah, so, it's not happening. There's no way.
You're returning. It's looking like you're returning to the 8-5 ways.
8-5. Yeah,
but we'll see. If you start off in week 2 and you lose to ASU, though, you might be heading towards the Jimbo Fisher thing with Elko. Maybe not that year, but pretty close. That's a scary schedule. So a lot scarier than this year. So, man, I don't know, A&M fans. I picked Miami. I felt like Miami had more potential, even though they choked twice this year versus A&M choking technically once. They choked twice. They really choked against South Carolina and bailed themselves out in the end. But if they would have lost that game, they would have been out of the playoffs probably. So, but I felt like Miami always had a higher potential. It's just, is Carson Beck going to throw picks? And he didn't because they ran the ball all over A&M. So I picked Miami to win this game. I did kind of want A&M to win because man, those fans get nothing, at least in football. They get nothing in football. They're the little brother team that gets picked on every year, even though Texas hasn't been good in forever either, but they just get treated that way by Texas.
They do it to themselves a little bit, though. I mean, we were just talking about it before the show. Some of their hype leaders, and they talk a lot of noise, and
some traditions need to die, and they're standing at the forefront of that. Like, traditions are great, but some of them they don't need to continue. So, but yeah, I don't know. I felt it feels bad. If I asked myself in week 7 when A&M beat LSU, I would have said, screw them. I would have said, screw them. I don't care that they beat us. I care that they did their stupid dance in my stadium. I hated that. So I was like, how dare you? But we got embarrassed, so I don't blame them. Yeah, I didn't like it, but I'm not going to say, oh, shame on you guys. Like, when people plant the flag, it's like, beat them. Then they won't plant the flag, and you're just beat them. Play better. So, but yeah. But on another note, Notre Dame thinks they would have done better than both these teams. Both of these teams.
Did you see? I think one of the Notre Dame accounts on Twitter, probably Irish Muse. That guy, whoever's doing that, man, stop it, please. He got owned a couple times, but he was like, I think it was him. It could have been a different account, but he's like, Notre Dame would have beat both these teams, and he got community noted. It's like, Notre Dame indeed lost to both of these teams already.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't lose to just one of these teams. They lost to literally. This is the bowl of who beat Notre Dame, and they were like, we would have played so much better than this. It was like, wow, good for you guys. Yeah, enjoy opting out. Anyway, I hope you sent it to the group chat. They scheduled a game with BYU. While BYU probably shouldn't have done that, because everybody should have punished Notre Dame for their terrible schedule and let them suffer. But I hope BYU kicks their asses.
Me too.
It's in Provo.
They already did, because again, that account that I was talking about immediately gets on. He's like, yeah, we're gonna trash them by 20, and then the official BYU Twitter account tweets back. He's like, what's that? I don't have time to talk. I'm preparing for a bowl game.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, BYU got in a little bit of trouble because Cal canceled their game against them next year because of all the scheduling stuff. So they had to fulfill the game. Plus, the USC drama with them. Have you heard what's going on?
So I don't know all the details, but yeah, I know that USC is not playing Notre Dame for the first time, other than in 2020 for the pandemic, for the first time since 1945. So
yeah, so it's going to be at least 2030 until they play each other again. And USC blames, I don't know what's true or not, and I don't know if we'll ever know, but USC was going to cave and they were going to schedule them. But then they backed out, USC, because they found out that Notre Dame can get into the playoffs.
Because of the memorandum of understanding.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. And people are arguing like, hey, there was always a memorandum of understanding of this. It was signed by every school. Like and Notre Dame had some disadvantages. Like, they couldn't be a top 4 seed, But that went away. And then some people are saying that this got slid in past that. I don't know what the truth is, but USC backed out of the game ultimately. Whether it was right, whether it was wrong, I don't know, but USC backed out. So that kind of does suck for Notre Dame. I mean, they're doing it themselves.
I don't blame them.
A lot of teams don't want to play them.
It really doesn't hurt USC, because USC next year. Have you seen USC's schedule?
No.
They play Oregon, they play Indiana, and they play Ohio State.
Yeah.
And they play Washington on the road. So they play those 4 teams, 4 of the best of the Big Ten. And Notre Dame plays Syracuse.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I don't blame them. Like, honestly, that's more of a stick it to your rival moment to be like, no, we're not playing because we're not helping you pad Badger record. Because honestly, would Notre Dame have even had any ground to stand on if they didn't play USC this year? They would have been 0-2 in ranked games. They would have really been grasping to that Pitt win. Like maybe they would have thrown in Navy at that point. They're like, Navy, we got Navy. There's nothing they would have been able to hold on to. So USC doing that, don't blame them. I want them to play because I like watching that game every year. I mean, if Notre Dame's going to throw a tantrum and sign these reservations for next year, like it's sad. Just schedule better games. And according to many people on the internet, they are going to. I've looked into their schedules. I did my research, unlike some of the comments said. Until like 2030, they're not really playing that tough of a schedule. There is definitely a little bit of an uptick after this next year. Softer than cotton. It's terrible. But 2027, 2028, 2029, it is a step above, but only because the floor is so low right now. And then 2030, it gets real. Like it was a real schedule. If some of the teams that are historically good do bounce back. If they don't, then it might not be that great. But right now, it does look really tough. But we'll see.
Well, that's a real BYU was in independence for a while, right? So I get it. Like they scheduled Texas 2 times BYU. Texas sucked when they played them, and it's like, well, you tried to schedule good, but you can't. And that's the hard thing about not being in a conference. Yeah, you're going to play some bad teams, but you're also going to play some good teams. That's how a conference works. You beat each other up, and you find out who the best is. If you're just independents and playing random people, could it be a good schedule? Maybe. Could it be a bad schedule? Could be. You don't know how these teams are going to be. BYU played Texas every year. They were playing Tennessee. They were playing all these teams, and every single time, Tennessee sucked when they played them. Texas sucked when they played them, USC sucked when they played them. And that's how it goes with independence. It's too tough to do that. So, I don't know. We'll see.
I get that. I do get that. It is, and obviously, you're not scheduling it like literally the week before these games are played, right? You're scheduling it quite a bit in advance for the most part. Or they're literally like you're doing home and home with a specific team. So you don't know. But the main thing is that they're scheduling against historically bad teams. Like there's no will this team be good? This team has always been bad and you're scheduling them. So that was going
to be my point is like those teams that I just named, like, yeah, that's unfortunate that they weren't good, but they could have been. That's different from legitimately Pitt probably isn't going to be a top 10 team in the future, right? I mean, they could, but not very likely. Much more likely that USC is, right?
It's legitimate legitimately possible that Notre Dame only plays 2 ranked teams next year, and it's BYU and Miami. Like maybe Navy's ranked at one point when they're playing. Maybe
it's such a stupid game.
Yeah, maybe SMU, but like nothing in Stanford, Syracuse, Boston College. They only have 3 road games, by the way. Oh no, sorry, they have 4 now. Because BYU, they have 4 now. Good job. Way to have a more realistic schedule. But it's really soft. I hope they can add to it if they're gonna do it. But that memorandum shouldn't exist, dude. I truly don't mind if they're gonna be an independent team. I just when they don't perform and then they cry about it or they push another team out, they're basically always stealing an at-large bid. I would rather them just compete in the ACC. Even though the ACC, I don't care. They're playing the ACC 6 games out of the year. They play in the conference championship. Maybe they win it every year. Who cares? They've now take that bid instead of one of the at-large bids that could go to the Big 12 or an SEC team or a Big 10 team that's on the fringe. Like, I think it's stupid that they are constantly taking that spot, and now they have a true reservation for it. So that's just silly.
I'm gonna lose a chase next year when BYU beats them. And BYU's like on the cusp of making the playoffs, and Notre Dame makes it above them because of this stupid thing. It's going to tick me off. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm done. If that happens, and it's going to happen, I'm just calling it right now. That's going to happen, and I'm going to.
I truly don't get how that's even legal. Oh yeah, if you're in the top 12, you're in. Okay, it's so funny because you'll see comments like, I don't know why it's so outside of the norm to have a top 12 team make a 12-team playoff. I was like, It's because there's bids, and those conference championship teams come in and knock those 11 and 12s out. I don't get it, but I could ramble about this all day because I could go back into, and we'll probably talk about it at some point. But let's move on before I pop a blood vessel, or you pop a blood vessel, thinking about the future. So, because that will not, I know that'll upset you, and that'll upset me too. That's crazy. But let's just get through the recap real quick. Not a good week for the G5, right? Not a good week.
It's going to have
Tulane.
bad implications too.
Tulane gets demolished again by Ole Miss. I want to give a quick shout out to Trinidad Chambliss for giving me a heart attack because he's supposed to be my quarterback next year. And this dude, right? This dude was putting his body on the line up 30. He was diving into the end zone while getting hit to score a meaningless touchdown to pad the score from 30 to 37. Like, what are we doing, Trinidad? I get it. I love the playoff spunk you got, but come on, man. We need you healthy next year for the Tigers. But if that happens, but dude, crazy. But yeah, not a good game for Tulane. Obviously, JMU, a little bit of a different story with JMU. They were getting blown out at the beginning. They did come back, and I think they lost by 17? 14. Yeah, that's not too bad. Honestly, JMU, if they just didn't have a slow start, they played pretty good. If they would have gotten to where they needed to be a couple drives earlier, they'd have been in this game. They let Oregon score early, and you don't want to do that historically against Oregon ever, is let them score early. And then they got behind it, and then their offense finally sparked to life in the second half. So James Madison actually, and I said this before the games happened, is they had a chance. They actually had a chance. If this was a neutral field game, this might not have gone the Ducks' way. A lot of people are dogging on the G5, so I'll ask you, Chance. You get to head off. What do we think of the G5? Does the G5 deserve an auto bid? What's the alternative?
I've got G5 in my blood because it comes in my background, right? They are put at such a disadvantage, especially now in everything, that if we strip them of getting an automatic bid, I mean, they're toast. They're toast. On the flip side, how can you give them an automatic bid going forward? I mean, they didn't show that they deserved it. Now, I think a lot of the talking heads were taking the narrative way too far. It's not like they're playing a Division 4 team. They're not playing high
Nick
schoolers.
Saban.
Yeah, their lives are not on the line. Not all of them are going to end up in the hospital and dead because
he's already doing political work to get Alabama in with 4 losses next season.
It's crazy. It wasn't just him. It was everybody was saying that. It's crazy. It's like, well, wait, doesn't the SEC play FCS schools like the second to last week of the season anyway? Like, come on, they're already playing those games. It's stupid narrative. Anyway, but I'll be honest, Chase, they didn't show they deserved it.
Why?
With the performances on the field on Saturday.
Why? Because they got blown out?
Because they got blown out. Yes.
Why? Here's where
I'm not saying that they don't deserve it. I'm saying those games didn't show that they deserved it.
Sure, but why does it matter now that it's a G5 team getting blown out against a Power 4 team?
It doesn't for me.
The play, I know, but that's like you said, lots of talking heads, lots of narratives coming from ESPN, just the internet comment section, just everywhere. Why was everyone complaining about Alabama getting in? We should have been complaining about Tulane and JMU the whole time. First off, guys, if we're going to blame anyone for 2 G5 teams getting in, blame the ACC. The verbiage of the rule was top 5 conference champions. That was written that way specifically because they would never have dreamed that an 8-5 Duke Blue Devils would win their conference through a weird tiebreaker, losing basically all of their out-of-conference games.
One person did. Come on, yeah. Chase. One person.
Chance believed in it this year, but when they wrote the rule, whenever they wrote that rule, they already thought they were only giving one spot to a G5 team with that rule. But nobody knew that the ACC was going to be dog shit and implode upon themselves, including Miami, who still got in with 2 losses. They weren't great losses either. Like, they're solid teams in the ACC, but they're in the ACC. It's crap. If you're going to blame anyone, don't blame the G5 teams for winning their conferences at 13-1 and what was it? 12-1 and then 11-2. They did what they were supposed to. Why are we taking it out on them? They played good games. Tulane beat Duke. There's a clear head-to-head that a G5 team beat the ACC champion earlier in the season. So obviously we can't blame the G5 with that. Then to go with how they performed this week. How did we expect them to perform? In the past, all of these games were neutral site games. These were on the road at Oregon, on the road in Oxford. Did we expect anything different from these? Quick history lesson. We're talking about G5 getting blown out and how they don't deserve it. Well, let's talk about all the other teams that got blown out in the playoffs. Alabama, blown out by Clemson, the national championship, like 30 points. How about last year? Tennessee, blown out by Ohio State, absolutely dog-walked. Washington against Michigan, blown out by 21 points in the national championship. TCU, obviously this one gets brought up a lot because the Big 12 doesn't deserve it, right? TCU got blown out by 60 points by probably the best Georgia team in the last century. Georgia dog-walked them. And yes, there's the argument, Ohio State lost on a missed field goal attempt at the end of the game, and they could have been in, right? They should have been in the national championship. No. Ohio State didn't even win their conference. Michigan won their conference, and then they lost to TCU the week before that. So you're going to talk about these teams don't deserve it. These teams come in and win sometimes. I mean, there's literally all of these are notable schools that have been blown out in the playoffs. Alabama, Clemson, not LSU. LSU's undefeated in the playoffs. We've only been once, though. I'll check my ego right there. Clemson, Notre Dame, blown out by Clemson, 30-3. Oklahoma, blown out by LSU, 63-28. Yep, I brought up Alabama earlier. Clemson, blown out 24-6. Ohio State, blown out 31-0 by Clemson in the Fiesta Bowl. I was at that game. They played like shit. Ohio State, Washington, blown out 24-7. Oklahoma, blown out 37-17. Michigan State, blown out 38-0. Florida State, 59-20 against Oregon. Like, this happens every year, guys. But now suddenly this year, we care so much. It was just the G5, man. They got blown out. There's probably going to be blowouts this week or in a week and a half because it's on like a Wednesday or whatever. There's probably going to be a blowout this week. And are we going to be like, these teams didn't deserve it either? No, it's a 12-team playoffs. If this was the 4-team playoff, they probably wouldn't deserve it. And that's why I kind of like the 14 playoffs or maybe an 18 playoffs because you're playing with the best of the best and there's going to be less chance for blowouts, but these are going to happen. It's college football, guys. Like, even in the NFL, there's blowouts, but in college football, there's a lot of variability. Weird stuff happens. It's 17 to 24-year-old kids, like, just making mistakes constantly, blowing coverages and breaking off crazy plays. Like, it happens. And then sometimes it's manageable. You can come back, as you saw with Texas A&M and South Carolina this year. They came back 28 points, won the game. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it gets out of hand. So I just think it's unfair to the G5 to punish them for this when it was most of these games that I just named, they were neutral site games and they got destroyed. But these were home field at night in Oregon, home field midday in Oxford. Like, those were not good places to be.
I agree with you. But unfortunately, I've learned this from my own team, from other teams. When the talking heads start talking about it before the result of the actual game, they're pushing a narrative for when the game happens. If it goes that certain way, they can push that agenda. And they've pushed it. They pushed it really hard. I feel bad because there's so many disadvantages for the G5 and so much working against them more now than ever that it's going to get tougher. It's going to get tougher. Really, some of the best games of all time are G5s pulling the upset. You know, you talk about the Boise State Statue of Liberty over Oklahoma and this and that. You know, Hawaii's, your Tulane's.
Tulane beat USC in the bowl game.
Yeah, right. I mean, those are some of the best stories and the best games, and it's really sad that we're shutting them out and we're giving them a narrative that we're going to send them to the hospital if they go to the playoffs. We need to send them to, the Sun Bowl. That's where they belong. It's stupid, but we'll see where it actually goes. I would love to see them still get one on a bid. 2 was maybe tough, but what's the alternative? Put in Duke so that they get blown out? I mean,
you can't put in Duke. It might have been interesting to see because you know how Duke is. They could have played the best game of their lives or the most embarrassing, terrible game of their lives too. But
it's true.
Yeah, no, that's how the verbiage was. It's not their fault. I don't know why we're taking it out on them when literally every big brand has been blown out in the playoffs pretty much. So it's sad. I think you're right. They're obviously going all political, trying to push us towards this and trying to get us all angry and be like, we need to expand the playoffs. I don't like that they do that because I think it's hurting it. I think we're letting less and less skilled teams get in, and then we're giving the big brands who get 62 calls that go their way every game a second, a third, a fourth chance when they've just underperformed all year. So, but it is what it is. Oh, so no stocks today, Chance?
No, but I think you have one, don't you?
Awesome, yeah. All right, we got one stock up for today. Stock up on Illinois State, guys. Anyone know about Illinois State in the FCS playoffs? Illinois State.
So actually, I have kept up on my FCS because I do have Montana State winning it all. And I watched Villanova beat in the quarterfinals a decent team, and I thought that they were going to win that game. But yeah, go ahead. Tell us what happened, Chase.
Dude, Illinois State. So the playoffs in the FCS is interesting because you have like a ton of people that are seeded with actual numbers, and then the people that aren't even supposed to be there. They don't even get ranks. They don't even get the decency of a seed or a rank.
Mm-hmm.
So Illinois State was basically they were completely unranked. They're now going to be playing their 17th game of the season because they were in those lower seeds and had to play an extra game in the national championship against number 2 Montana State this week. And they obviously, when you're the low seed, you have to play high seeded teams to get there. And in the FCS, these are all on the road games. There's the only neutral field is the championship game. These are all on the road games. All four of the ones they won. They beat number 16th ranked Southeast Louisiana. Go Lions. Number 1 ranked North Dakota State. Number 8 UC Davis, and number 12 Villanova. All on the road. And now they have a neutral site game in Nashville for the national championship against Montana State. That's a Cinderella story, and while we're just talking about the G5, this is the G5 of the FCS right here. We're basically talking for, man. This is the Cinderella story. Go Redbirds. Win that thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And to think that the North Dakota State, the South Dakota State, they didn't even get in like the round of, what was it, like this round of 16? I don't even know if they got into that round because they both got knocked out. So, yeah. Good on them. Good on them.
That's crazy.
I hope they don't get blown out.
Number 1 team in the nation on the road.
Yeah.
That's crazy. An unranked team. Could you imagine like that? If you saw right now, you'd imagine Indiana losing to Duke. Duke. Right now, an unranked Duke losing to Indiana.
I mean,
on the road in Indiana.
Like, I think this case it would be like Ohio State losing to Kennesaw State, right? Yeah. On the road.
In Columbus. Oh my God.
Crazy. I mean,
to be fair, Ohio State did lose to Purdue that way.
Yeah.
That's not true. A G5 team, but that was Purdue. So
yeah, that's fair. But yeah, unfortunately Montana State looks pretty good. So but Eastern Illinois,
North Dakota State.
Yeah.
Illinois State.
That's true. Illinois State, that's who I meant. They blew out Villanova. It wasn't even close.
They destroyed them. I think they blew out someone else too. They've been playing their best ball at the end of the season. They're like the New York Giants of this playoff for them. So that's awesome.
Yep.
Sorry to bring that up, Chance. I know. Division rivals go deep. They go deep.
Oh, the Giants need everything they can get these days.
Oh man. Anyway, before we ramble for another hour, that's going to be our first episode, guys. Just want to thank you guys for your constant support. We're going to be going through our picks for this week. Unfortunately, there's no playoff games in the next 7 days, so we're going to just do bowl games here. But next week we'll have the bowl next round of the playoff picks. Thank you guys so much for your support, your likes, your comments, your views. We appreciate it so much. Share this with your friends. Give us a follow, subscribe. Leave a funny comment for me to respond to, because I like being witty and cheeky. So love to hear from you guys. Appreciate it. This has been the Concussion Protocol Podcast. I'm Chase. This is Chance. Signing off. Bye, Mom. I got it.